All right, here we are. Welcome back, guys, to the YouTube channel. Today we are back, not with a travel video, unfortunately, although that will be coming as soon as I'm done with the topic of today's video, which is going to be removing and attempting to reseal some of the old seals on this diesel injection pump. So a couple weeks ago, I noticed a little bit of drippage coming from underneath the van. I couldn't quite tell what it was at first. Once I smelled it, I could tell it was definitely diesel. And I let the van idle for a little bit, and I kind of just watched underneath the car. And sure enough, from the diesel pump, I could see a small drip, like maybe one drop every 15, 20 seconds or so. And I had noticed some moisture underneath the van for a couple months now, but I really wasn't sure what it was. But now that it's starting to drip, I was able to smell it and see where it was coming from. So sure enough, the diesel injection pump is leaking a bit. The seals, 34-year-old rubber, was bound to happen at some point. So I ordered a reseal kit, which is right here. And well, first, let me show you the pump. Okay, so if we come around to the van, this is the injection pump, this whole mess of metal that looks really scary. So basically, for those that don't know, this is a type of fuel injection system that was used in like old mechanical diesels. I think some Fords from like the 80s and 90s used pumps like these, but basically there's no electronic fuel pump. So this pump right here, just mechanically, it's driven by the engine, by the timing belt. It lifts fuel up directly from the tank. Low pressure fuel comes in, I believe, right here on this line, and then comes out of this line and gets distributed somehow. I think there's a distributor on the back here to each of these high pressure fuel lines into each cylinder. So I'm not exactly sure where the leak is, but once I take the pump out, I'm sure I'll figure it out. So as you guys can see, there is some moisture down there, and on the back side, like over here that you really can't see, there's a lot more moisture, and that's where I saw the dripping coming from. So I'm fairly certain that the leak, at least part of it, is coming from the distributor head, which is on the back side, and then maybe a couple of these other little seals and O-rings right here. So yeah, we're gonna have to take the pump out in order to crack it open and try and replace some of these seals, but it is quite a process to do that. I'll show you what it's going to look like. So this would not be too difficult if it weren't for the fact that the drive shaft for the pump is driven by the timing belt, which means that in order to remove the pump, we have to take off this timing cover, and we have to remove the injection pump sprocket from the injection pump drive shaft. So I'm going to try to do that without having to actually remove the timing belt. I think I'm just going to try and tie the sprocket to the belt to keep the timing, and then just sort of pull the pump out. That's the hardest part. Besides that, there's just a couple of bolts on either side and a few Allen screws, and then of course disconnecting the fuel lines, and we should have this thing out of here. And then the seals that I'm intending on replacing, at least two. So I want to try to replace this seal right here, which I think is the main head seal for the pump, and then also the distributor head seal. So which would go on this backside here, that again you'll be able to see a lot better once I have it out. And the kit that I got, it came with a bunch of other seals. So it came with the front shaft seal and some other washers and things. This is essentially like an entire rebuild kit. I highly doubt that I'll be going into this pump as deeply as that, because I've never done this before, and I'm not super confident, so I don't want to mess something up. So I'm going to try and play it as safe as possible. So without further ado, let's get started. All right, keep that with the rest of the metal, and the other one. And if I didn't forget anything, that should be all we need to get this cover off. I can get it to slide through. Come on now. There we go. All right, and there's the timing cover off. So now you guys can see, yeah, we're definitely gonna have to take this fan bracket off because this is the injection pump sprocket right here. So yeah, we're gonna have to take off the fan and the accessory belts, which of course means that I have to undo this big plate right here that the driver's seat sits on so that I can scoot it out of the way enough to get up in there. Go ahead and get going on that. Probably not going to film that, but I'll get back to you guys after I've got all this stuff right here loosened up and I've got the seat taken out. Okay, so we've removed all of those bolts. So a bunch of them along here, and then came around all the way up to here. And in order to get the rest of these out, we actually had to take out the seat. So I've got the seat over there and got the battery cover off as well. And basically with this plate here, I'll zoom out a little bit. With this plate loose right here, it allows me to sort of move it around like this, which actually allows me to get in there a bit better to access what's beneath. So I actually get a good amount of clearance. I can't quite remove it because the handbrake cord is threaded through and also the four-wheel drive cable is threaded through. So that's all right, because that should give me enough clearance to move this plastic cover out of the way and then get this fan and fan bracket and belts off. So let's do that now. Should be able to go behind here. There's 4 nuts, 1, 2, and then 2 more in the back. Okay, so we got the 4 nuts off for the fan. This one's different because I stripped one of these the last time I was in there. Had to replace it. But as you can see, we got 1, 2, one of them down there, and then another one kind of behind there that you can't quite see. So we're just gonna wedge this flathead in here, and hopefully, if we can get it in there, the fan should pop right off. So let's go ahead and grab that, get that out of the way. All right, and here we have our fan and fan clutch. All right, so with the fan off, we can now take off this pulley and the belts. We're not gonna remove the belts, but we're just gonna kind of slip them off so that we can get to this fan bracket. Okay, so got the fan pulley off. Just pulled it out of there, wiggled it around a little bit, and the belt slips right off. So these are the belts here, the alternator belts, and then this is our fan bracket pulley. So with that out of the way, we should be able to just remove this fan bracket. Yeah, I don't think there's anything else in the way. So there's a couple of big bolts, one right there, another one down there, and then on the other side as well. And actually, before I do that, I'm just gonna take out this coolant overflow reservoir just so I can have a bit more room to take this out, and also when I get to actually removing the pump, have a little more room to work with. All right, so we'll get our ratchet on here and just give it a little tap. Hopefully that'll be able to do it. All right, there we go. There's number 1. Yeah, I gotta remember what those torque specs were. All right, so after some hammering and a couple of hard to get to bolts that were on the left side of the bracket, I think we have the whole thing pretty much loose. Okay, so I ended up getting 2 more bolts out just so we can remove this all the way and have a little more space to work with. Okay, here's our fan bracket and the 3 bolts for the lower timing cover that we're holding it on. So 1, 2, and 3. So now we have full access to this injection pump sprocket right here. and then we'll go ahead and loosen up this pulley. Okay, so I tied off the belt to the sprocket in 2 different places, pretty tight, just to make sure it doesn't slip timing when I take the pump out. And I also went ahead and broke this bolt loose just by whacking at my ratchet. So let's get this off without it falling, hopefully. All right, there we go. And this right here is the end of the drive shaft for the injection pump. So now that everything on this end has been removed, we can start over here taking apart bolts and stuff like that. So there's, let's see, there's a bolt right there, and then there's also a bolt on the other side. So let's start working at those. So I went ahead and disconnected the fuel line from that hose right there, stuffed a little shop towel in there so no dirt or anything gets in it, just so I could have a bit more room to work on that bolt right there. Still trying to get this one done. They're both really stuck. So get back to you when I have those out. All right, guys, so finally, and I mean, it's been like an hour and a half of me trying to hack away at these things. Got that one off and got that one off, and I have them right here. And they're pretty mangled, unfortunately, because I had to smash them both with the flathead of this screwdriver and the hammer in order to just bang them out. And dang, they were stuck on there. All right, so now what I'm doing is I'm gonna start removing the rest of the fuel lines. So remove this clamp right here. I'm gonna get this guy off. Let's see, I got that one off, and then also this one down here. And got that one as well. All right, and the next thing to do is gonna be to start removing these high pressure fuel lines that you can see on the back side here. So I've got to disconnect them from this end and then also from each cylinder as well. And then it looks like I've got to disconnect that little plate right there too. I went ahead and disconnected the intake and kind of just moved it out of the way so that I could get in here. So let's go ahead and get those lines out. All right, so we removed all of the lines. So what we've got left still is we've got to break this sprocket free so that the drive shaft of the pump can come out. We've also got to disconnect, there's, I think, let's see, 2 diesel lines. Let me see if I can get the phone in there. That one and also that one right there that are both going to the pump, if I'm not mistaken. So those 2 lines plus the sprocket, and then I think we need to disconnect the power to the fuel shutoff solenoid, and that's pretty much it. All right, so to get this sprocket off, I've got, as you can see, ideally I'd have 2, but I only have 1 of these bolts that goes into a threaded hole in the sprocket. There's another one on the opposite side, and it's pushing against the block, or I guess in this case, we're pushing against the water pump. But we're just gonna keep ratcheting that bolt until the force pushes the sprocket away from the water pump, essentially. And it should pop off. I remember doing this with the timing belt, so we're gonna go ahead and do that. All right, so popped off that sprocket, and the timing belt is staying on there. Now it's a bit loose up here, but I'll know where to properly put it when I get around to putting everything back together, because I'll have this tied off here, so not too worried about it. So it looks like there's one more bolt way behind here that you guys can't see. I think it's just some kind of a mounting bracket or something like that, but it looks like it's just 1 bolt. And then aside from that, it's just those hoses, but I'm gonna try and go ahead and at least crack this thing loose. I think it's pretty like stuck here at the separation between the water pump and the injection pump. So gonna maybe get like a screwdriver in between there and try and pop it off after I get this bolt, or I guess this one behind here, off. Okay, y'all, so I was able to get that bolt out behind there, just tugging on it real hard with a ratchet. Nicked my hand, but you know, that's how it goes. And we are finally loose, at least, so you can see there, it's starting to move around. So I think pretty much all we have left to do is disconnect the accelerator cable and then disconnect these hoses. So I'm gonna try and get it out of this hole right here and see about getting this thing out. All right, so got the accelerator cable out, and I actually did take the pump out of the housing. It came out completely, but I put it back in because I forgot to disconnect this electrical connection here, which I think is just for the fuel cutoff solenoid. And then finally, I just have to take off these two hoses that I was talking about earlier. So those, if you can see, let me see if I can get the phone back there. It kind of just go into the pump right there with those hose clamps. So I imagine when I take those off, some diesel's gonna come out, no big deal. Okay, so I disconnected this small hose that goes right here. It hissed when I took it off, so some sort of air hose, I'm not quite sure. I'll have to look it up, but that's off. Last but not least, let's finally do these big hoses. All right, guys, so I got the first hose off, and it's actually coolant, which makes sense. It's used to cool the pump down, I guess. And I was wondering why there were so many diesel lines, because I've already disconnected two big ones, two low pressure ones, I guess, and then more than two high pressure ones. So it makes sense that this one's coolant, which leads me to believe that the one right beneath it is also coolant. So yeah, I kind of made a mess, but it'll be all right. I'll make sure to top off the coolant when I put everything back together. So all right, and we've successfully disconnected both hoses. Okay, here we go. Got the accelerator cable off, everything loose. Let's see here. There it goes. Come on now. Try and be as careful as I can. There goes a bunch of coolant. Uh-oh. All right, well, it's bound to happen, I guess. But the pump is out. All right, and a big empty space left behind. So yeah, man, we were leaking a lot, unfortunately, but it's out. I guess we're sort of halfway done at this point, and putting it back will be hopefully easier since I've done this once now, or at least since I've disassembled it. Reassembly shouldn't be too bad. But let's go look at this pump. All right, here we are. So it is in fact you can see it up there, maybe, Denso VE pump. Try and get the part number off of there in a second here. But yeah, this is it, man. Look at this crazy contraption. So based on what I saw from under the car, it was leaking from the distributor right here, from that corner, and then also from this seal right here, and then potentially the head seal as well, which is either this seam or this seam. I can't remember. I think this one. But I'm gonna replace, I think, all three of those. So, but that is a tomorrow thing. So pick it back up tomorrow in the morning. All right, guys, so we are back. Time to get started on actually taking this thing apart a little bit. Start off, I've gotten my Allen attachment with a bunch of adapters here on the impact so that I can get these screws off a little easier. So I've already broken this one loose, and this plate right here, I believe there's nothing else attached to it. It's just the mounting plate where the mounting bolt was. So we're gonna go ahead and take that off. Let's get this other one loose here. Back these out. All right, so with that off, I think next up we can go ahead and take off this bolt right here, which looks to just be holding on this little bracket right here that has this electrical connection for the fuel cutoff solenoid, if I'm not mistaken. So it looks like it's just this one bolt right here, and I think it was the same size as the other ones. Totally back that off. definitely a hole going into the pump, so I'll probably, yeah, that goes into the distributor, so I'll probably just, actually looks like they all do. So make sure to keep those clear of any dirt, anything like that. And it looks like we can't take this plate completely off until we disconnect the fuel cutoff solenoid itself. So might have to do a little backtracking and start on the head first, because as you can see, you can't really get in here until this whole mess is removed. So might have to start working on the head first and then come back to the distributor. So okay, just a real light tap on that one to back it off. And yeah, I think as long as this nut stays in place, we should be fine here. So let's see if we can start pulling this thing off. Okay, looks like it's coming. Oops. Okay, and there we have it, our accelerator plate. All right, so with that off, we can go ahead and move on to removing these two bolts right here, which hold on this cylindrical part. I'm really not sure what this is. Some kind of vacuum component, I think. Whoops. Okay. First one out. Okay, second one out. And then I think there's actually one more just right here. Okay. And there's a spring right here. So I'm gonna take this off as delicately as I can. Yeah, last but not least, this one right here. Let's carefully remove this assembly. Okay. And yep, looks like, see, my worry was that this spring would push this too far, but it's getting caught right here, so we're good. All right, so with that bit off, we've now got access to our 4 head screws. So same size as these that we just took off. So I think this is everything that's in our way right now. So let's just give these each a quick little hit. All right. Not too bad. Last one. It's got a little dirt in it. Come on now. All right, there it goes. Okay. Okay, they do come out. These two are the same length. I'm going to see if the other two are also the same length. Make sure. Okay, yep, same length. And we'll just double check the last one here. And same length. All right, so we're good there. Let's take these all out. Head bolts. All right, so I've just taken a chisel and just went right on this corner to pop it up, and it did in fact move. So I'm gonna be really careful as I take this off. And I think there are some loose parts. So I'm gonna try my best to keep those in their spots, not mess anything up. Okay, here we go. so, all right, it's full of diesel. Okay, there's a spring, and that looks to be about it. Is it loose? Okay, it's loose. Okay, so there's moving parts. Everything rests right there. And all I have to do is unhook this spring. All right, so we got the head off, and there's the old seal, as you can see. And that is the spring that was attached up there. Just kind of laid it down. I'm not gonna touch any of this stuff. And now, let's go ahead and try and pry this old one out of here. And it's probably pretty hard, if I had to guess. Yeah, it's very brittle. So let's get that out without any pieces getting anywhere. Slowly. Okay. All right, so let's go ahead and get this new one in here. Actually, looks like it goes the other way. All right, looks like I ordered the right kit because it's nice and flush in there. Okay. All right, and that is seal number 1 done. So unfortunately, I do have to keep this open while I work on the next one, which is the distributor. So I believe we've got to take this off, this cover. Okay, so there is the fuel cutoff solenoid, and it looks like we're gonna have to disconnect this wire in order to get it off. So let's see. So let's try and get this cover off and just give it a little whack real quick. And then additionally, we can remove the fuel cutoff solenoid. So we'll get this guy off right here. All right. Now, this plate from earlier can come off with this one bolt here. That is now out. And I will actually just keep this nut on here. Just cause. Okay, so next step is to go ahead and remove this guy, fuel cutoff solenoid. Probably get a crescent wrench, fit that around there, and pop it loose. Let's see. All right, guys, so I had to enlist the help of my dad, and I was holding onto the pump, and he had one wrench in this gap here, and another wrench on the solenoid itself. Just kind of squeezed together while I held the pump in place, and we broke it loose. And everything in here jiggled, but I think it's fine. Everything looks to be in the same spot it was before. So with that out of the way, we can now take out the fuel cutoff solenoid. Let's see here. All right, yep, that's gonna be leaking. I should have known. Let me put that back so I can get some more towels. All right, so with the solenoid pulled out now, I went ahead and just cracked these 4 Allen bolts here for the distributor head, and sure enough, as you can see, it's starting to separate from the block. You can see the springs there, at least on that side you can start to see it. So we're gonna keep backing these out real slow, and then we're gonna slip the O-ring over these distributing hoses, I guess, and then slip it over the head down into the crevice. At least that's what I've seen on YouTube. So I'm gonna start backing these out one by one, evenly, and you can start seeing how it separates. All right, so I've got this screw in right here, and then the other screw there on the bottom, diagonally from each other, to keep the distributor head on the block.
And as you can see, we backed it up enough to where you can see that seal. And for anybody else that might be doing this, this is how much thread you got to work with whenever you do this. So you can see I'm almost there at the end. And just try and go in here and pull it out. Let's see, it'll come from this side. I am expecting this thing to be pretty solid. Okay. I'll have to maybe put the phone down for a second. So I just went and cut the seal with a little box knife. And so you can see why this one went bad. Here, let me put the phone up and I'll show you. All right, so if we look at this old O-ring, if I can get it in the camera, if you look directly at that black part, you can see that it's become more of a rectangle. That should really be a circle so that it can exert pressure on both pieces of metal that it is sandwiched between. But over time, heat cycling, getting hot and cold, it will get brittle and turn like this. So let's compare it to the new seal, which it's not broken, so you actually can't see the cross section of it, but it is circular. If I can sort of give you a view like that, it's definitely a circular section. So the plan of action for this is, let me change it. So we have to slip the O-ring over these 4 hoses here, and then additionally over onto the block, or onto the head, I'm sorry, and we'll roll it down this part. Roll it down like that, and it'll go off the edge. And then we put back our screws and then undo that one, let the ring slip in, screw it back. Undo that one, let the ring slip in, screw it back, and put a little Vaseline on it to help guide it down as I bolt the head back onto the block. All right, so we're gonna try to slip this ring over these 4 nozzles, and we're going to also stretch it over the head, which feels very wrong, but here we go. Let's see, I'm going to take it this way. All right, so we slid the O-ring over the head, and you can see it's situated on all of the bolts here. So we're going to back 1 bolt at a time out until it slips into place, and then that little groove that you see on the silver part is where it will slot into. So we'll do that now. We backed out all the screws, and as you can see, the seal is nicely seated in there. Let's see, I already started screwing these bolts back. So yeah, we can now close this thing up, close this thing up, and then work on our last seal, which is going to be this guy right here. All right, so with the head all the way back in, we're now going to torque each of these bolts to 9 foot-pounds. All right, so we've got those bolts torqued. Keep in mind, if you've got a bigger torque wrench like this one doesn't go all the way down to 9. Where are we? So I had it in like what I thought was 9, and you can hear the click, but it's just really, really faint. So just do that at your own risk. Now we can go ahead and fit the solenoid back on and put this head cover back on. Okay, so I probably won't show the rest of this reassembly. I'll pick back up when we get under there. But basically all I'm gonna be doing is putting back this plate right here. This goes over the solenoid. And then I'm also gonna be putting back, let's see where it is, right here, the head. And the only thing I have to do for that is that little golden piece. There's a hole at the tip of it, which I have to hook that spring, top of that spring through. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that, and I'll meet you guys when we get down there. All right, so we've got everything back together, at least for the most part. When you're putting this cover back on, be careful of this guy right here. I put the nut on it so that it wouldn't fall through, but this actually can fall through that hole. So when you're putting it back and you put the spring, and you hook the spring back you know, to the underneath of this lid, just be careful because that spring could pull this down through. So I would just put this nut on top to prevent that from happening. All right, so in this one, from what I see online, there is a spring, a couple of shims, and then the O-ring. So just like before with the head or with the distributor, I'm gonna back these out just little by little. See if I can just swap the O-ring out. Otherwise, I think I can deal with the loose parts and just kind of stacking them back because I have the diagram. Okay. Okay, yep, and sure enough, we are being pushed back on, so as you can see, we popped it open and there's the seal. So I think we can probably just replace it like this, same method where we maybe unscrew one bolt. But let's try it out. All right, so I've got the seal pulled out a little bit, and as you guys can see from the side, hopefully, it's pretty flat on the top and bottom. So this one was definitely squaring off too. And this was one of the places that from under the car, I'm pretty sure I saw it dripping, so it'd be good to replace this one. Okay, so I just cut out the old one, and this is the new one. So as you can see, just like the other seal, the head seal, this one has, come on now, turned into quite a rectangular cross section versus the new one, which as you can see is pretty circular. So just like the other one, we've slipped it over, and now you can see it's just kind of caught on the bolt. So we're just gonna back one out, let it slip, put it back the other one out, let it slip, put it back. So we backed out the bolts and let it sit in there. So as you can see, it's just right in there. Get my little tool, I'll show you. It's just sitting right there. And I did actually have to sort of tap this one in a little bit, kind of around it like that, to get it to fit all the way, so you might have to do that too. But let's go ahead and get these bolts all the way down and make sure the surfaces are flush. All right, so with that last one in there, all I'm going to do now is replace this mounting bracket, this air something controller, I don't really know, and then the accelerator lever. So that's all going. Accelerator lever goes here, the air cartridge thing goes here, and then the mounting bracket goes on the back here. So we'll get those on. Okay, so we got everything back on. We got this plate right here, the mounting plate in the back here, and then the accelerator lever. This one was a bit tricky just with the springs. So I had to take the springs out from the bottom of the plate, put them onto the head, and then put the plate on top. So, and then you have to kind of get a piece of string and kind of bring the spring around to hook in here. And then also they go over on this side. So everything seems to be pretty much how I remember it to be before I started taking it apart, which is a good sign. And everything is tightened up. Don't forget to tighten this nut. And yeah, all that's left to do is put it back in the car. All right, y'all, so we've got the pump almost, I guess, pretty much completely reconnected to the vehicle. So we've got our camshaft, or I'm sorry, injection pump sprocket lined back up. I made sure to check the timing with my marks that I made for the timing belt video. And we're all lined up, we're all good here. Tighten this down to 47 foot-pounds it was. And now, pretty much all we have to do is prime the pump. So what we're gonna do to do that is connect our inlet line right here. So, and as you can see, I already pumped it a little bit. It's like brimming with fuel. So I'm gonna squeeze this one on. Let's see, there we go. Try and get it right up to the top. Okay, cool, just like that. And then what we're gonna do is go under the car where the fuel filter is, which is like way kind of down there. And there's a hand plunger on it, a pump. And we're gonna hand pump that until we start to see fuel come out of these lines right here, these outlet lines. You could unscrew this whole piece and just wait for it to start pouring out. But I'm just gonna wait for it to start kind of shooting out of. This is the return line, and this is the line that goes into the cylinders. So We're just gonna pump on that until we start to see fuel come out, and then we're gonna connect this hose right here, and then where's the other one? This hose right here. Bottom line, which is what we want to see, which means that the pump has been refilled with fuel since we lost all of it as we replaced those seals. So now all we need to do is, let's see, reconnect this line here. I don't want too much of that dripping on the starter. I don't know if that matters all that much, but all right, this is it. All right. Oh my God, dude. All right, we are running, and unfortunately I didn't get a video of it actually starting up because the first couple times that I tried, as you saw, I got stressed out and I forgot to record when it actually started. I just had to crank it like a couple more times and it fired up. But I'm gonna get under here and show y'all that it's not leaking. I've had it running for a few minutes now. Let me show you. Alright, so yeah, no more leaks, man. That was probably the most tedious thing that I've done, like, ever on a car. That was pretty wild. And hopefully I won't ever have to do that again. So yeah, that's it, man. So we'll see you guys in the next one, which will be me on the road. See ya.